ഒരു ചെറിയ കോണ്ടന്റ് വാർണിംഗോടുകൂടി തുടങ്ങുകയാണ്. ഇത് എസ്പെഷ്യലി ക്രിസ്ത്യൻ മതവിശ്വാസികൾ ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ക്രിസ്ത്യാനിറ്റിയുടെ ബേസിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടീച്ചിങ്സും ഫൗണ്ടേഷനെ ഒക്കെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ചെയ്യുന്ന, ചാലഞ്ച് ചെയ്യുന്ന ചില തിയറീസും ആണ് ഇദ്ദേഹം മുന്നിലോട്ട് വെക്കുന്നത്. സോ ഇഫ് യു തിങ്ക് ദിസ് വിൽ ഹേർട്ട് യുവർ റിലീജിയസ് സെന്റിമെന്റ്സ്, ഇത് നിങ്ങളുടെ മതവിശ്വാസങ്ങളെ വ്രണപ്പെടുത്തും എന്ന് കരുതുന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ദയവ് ചെയ്ത് യു ആർ ഫ്രീ ടു ലീവ്. സോ ഐ എം സ്റ്റാർട്ടിംഗ് വിത്ത് ദാറ്റ് കാവിയറ്റ്. Thank you. I was telling them exactly what you told me, that if people feel that it would hurt their sentiments, religious sentiments, they should not listen to this session.
I'm thanking DC Books to be here. One closer. And I have to excuse myself in the beginning because my English language is very poor and I'm not used to express myself in English, so maybe some parts I would like to read because I don't know it by heart. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. To start with, you know, just for your information, he's going to put forth his theory, which he had initially done in his book, Jesus Lived in India, and Mr. Kersten has been continuing his research on the topic, on the origins and teachings of Jesus Christ. But before we start, you know, we will be having some slideshow, and Kersten will explain his theories slide by slide. We will get there. I hope somebody is managing a slideshow. Can I please get a confirmation that the slideshow is on? Okay, so as we get that ready, I just want to start with this first question. As I mentioned, Christianity is a faith. Billions worldwide believe in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, in his crucifixion and his resurrection, which is the foundation of that faith. Of all the books that you could have written, why did you choose this particular book?
This has in particular the reason, that I was born in the eastern part of Germany, which was at this time, few years after the Second World War. It was occupied by the Russians, and it was totally communistic. And I had never heard anything about religion, about Jesus or God. And when I was about 11 years old, then my family, we escaped from the west to the east after the wall was built, and this was very difficult, and but finally we succeeded and we settled down in the western countries, and then again I went to school, to primary school, and then I heard where now we have heard about religion classes, and I had no idea what that means because I have never heard about it. So then they told me, yeah, we hear about God and Jesus and Mother Mary and all the other things. I said, okay, this is very interesting. I'm glad to hear about, but after a few years, I noticed that because I was not born with it, I was always a little bit skeptical. So some of these stories, like virgin birth, for example, and resurrection from the dead, and all these miracles, of course, and finally, of course, the salvation then from the death, and then Jesus should have gone to heaven. And as far as I was informed, I thought heaven is something like a spiritual place and not really a local place where matter can be. So I was wondering, and later I studied Christian theology, and I noticed even the professors in the university they were not able to answer all my questions. So I started my own research. But the most important thing was when I was 22 years old, there was a famous German magazine, and there was an article about an Indian professor in Kashmir who stated to have found the tomb of Jesus in Kashmir. I was wondering, and I said, this is very strange, but as I don't believe that he went with his body to heaven, his tomb should be somewhere. So then, after finished my studies, I started my journey, my first journey to Kashmir, and I met this professor in Srinagar, Professor Fida Hasnain. He was very kind and very nice and introduced me to everything. He showed me everything. He went with me everywhere. And at the end, he said, "Why don't you write a book about this?" I said, maybe this is a very good idea. So I started to collect all the informations and to collect the material, and it took me about 5 years, and then I published the book in 1981 in German the first time.
Yeah. You know, it's been more than 2 decades now since you published the book. Just going back a little bit on, could you just tell us, it's still coming. Can you tell us what were the repercussions that you faced after publishing this book? What has been the reaction from the general public? Were your book banned somewhere? Were you personally banned from going somewhere?
Of course, there was a lot of critique. I mean, first of all, I could not find a publisher. Everybody told me, this is stupid. This is not written in the Bible. So how can he have been in India? Impossible. And I was a little bit sad about it. And after a while, so I financed the publishing myself and tried to distribute it. And I had very bad reactions on it. Of course, most people then were Christian believers, and I was already afraid before, because I said, I don't want to hurt Christians in their belief, because this is something which will lead at the end to another considering what happened about Jesus. And finally, I found out that the title, Jesus Lived in India, this is so controversial and that even the believers, they did not buy this book, of course. So they said, just rubbish, stupid, we don't buy this, we don't read this. There's no reason to read this stupid stuff. No. So, but years after years, then I thought it was very important to produce English translation. A German is not read by so many people, so I tried to finance this publication and the translation, and finally I managed to produce my own English publication, and but it was difficult to distribute. I found a distributor in Great Britain. They said, okay, if you are paying for everything, then we are going to distribute it. And after a while, they found out it's not selling so badly as they thought before. So, because there were several people interested in, there are not only believers, there are also people who are a little bit skeptical. So, and then it happened, after all, now it is published in 42 different languages, with more than 7 million copies sold all over the world. This is quite successful. Thank you. Yeah, I have some pictures. I mean, pictures say more than 1,000 words.
Okay,
It's not
the
working.
slide is on. Only things we cannot see it. Those are the two screens there. So I think people,
It's
yeah,
there.
after the first
Okay.
8 or 9 rows, they are able to see the slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so
That's
I'm,
interesting. So we don't know what is shown. Yeah?
yes, but we hope the first picture that you see is that of, is this one? Is that the first picture that you see? All right.
That's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, but let's trust that that's the picture that beaming there. So that brings me to my first question. What we know of Jesus Christ, the pictures where what we see him, how we identify Jesus, is there is a particular image of him, which is not exactly this. He's fairer in his complexion of all the pictures that we have seen, but there's some similarities. Can you tell us the story of this picture? How do we know that this is how Jesus looked like?
What is seen on the picture is that Jesus is not a white person as he is shown normally, but he is half Indian. So his skin is a little bit more dark. So, sorry. And but this is not my invention, because this image is produced after 15 years of research. And basically, it is found on the, now we should go on picture number 3. Can you show picture number 3?
Can you show picture number 3?
Yeah, that shows the whole figure of Jesus. And this is on a piece of cloth. And this clothes, they covered the body of Jesus after he was taken. Okay. So if you see this picture, I don't know, it's a long picture of a clothes, and there is black and white, the whole figure of Jesus. Can you see this? Yeah? Okay. Now soon we can see it. So this is actually the clothes where he was covered with when they took him from the cross. The really amazing thing, for me, this is the biggest miracle existing in the world, because, you know, it shows not anyone, but Jesus in this moment when he was taken from the cross. This is something very, very incredible. But the problem is, from this on, we developed this image you have seen before, Indian as a half, because we can, on this clothes, we can find blood stains which have been produced by the nails of the cross and by the thorn crown and by, how's it called, when he was wept, or by, when they have hit him with, on the cross, you know? So
when he was nailed on the cross?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we have about 28 different wounds they found on it. But the problem is these wounds were bleeding after he was taken, some hours after his death. And this is a medical problem because dead bodies, dead corpses don't bleed. So it is quite sure that according to this shroud, we see that there was still heart beating and he was breathing, and it very, very calm. You could not see it, but he was still alive somehow. This is a miracle, and I think, but now this is confusing to the most of Christians because they say, so then he has not been resurrected and he cannot save our souls, our life. But I think you have to remember, when he was hanging out the cross, he sent out to God his prayer, God, please, Father, if possible, let these go away and let me be saved. And then we know, no, God didn't hear it, so he was dead. And that's not true. I mean, the good thing is that he was saved and that he was heard and that he was still alive now. So.
Okay, Kersten, before we go there, I just want to loop back into the question of his birth. Like, we all know from Bible that, he was born in Bethlehem. That's the story. That's how, whether you are a believer or not, that's what you identify Jesus and its birth. But you are putting forth an entirely radical and revolutionary theory that Bible story is based on folklore and it's a mythical story. How do you substantiate that argument? Can you tell the audience what are the theories and evidence that you have to say that, to trace his birth back to India?
Meanwhile, we know that this biblical Jesus is almost for 95% mythological. So there's only very small historical evidence that Jesus has been really there. And I'm convinced now that Jesus was a wandering monk. So he was wandering around the Mediterranean Sea, everywhere. He was not born in Jerusalem, but close by, not too far away in what is at this time was Syria, on a holy mountain, and in a very special cave, not in a stable. And he was recognized by his followers at this time as what is going back to the roots of Ishva, from then that means Yehoshua, and this is meaning Lord. Yehoshua is just, and then the development of Jesus. I think this person has, during his lifetime, he never knew that he later will be called Jesus. Because the story we know from the Bible is only a very, very small part of the region where he has been, where he has traveled around, and only a few months out of his lifetime, because the story of the birth and the story of the young man in the temple, and then there are 18 years nothing, and then the time with his followers, and then his death on the cross. These are almost Jewish stories which they created about 3 generations later. But I'm absolutely sure that there has been a very holy person who did all these miracles and who was extremely wise, and he traveled around everywhere.
All right. Can we jump to, I'm jumping the order, can we jump to picture number 41, please? I want to show them because that is your crucial discovery and you're basing your argument on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So can you tell us about this picture? And this is your research, this is your finding, you're basing your theory on. Please explain it to us.
This is the most important thing I have discovered in my life. This is a kind of shaft digged in a massive rock uh, in eastern Anatolia today, which was then Syria. And this is what researchers found out, the birthplace of god Mithra or Mithras, or this is going back in India for about 5,000 years, and there was first the Indian Mithras cult, then there was the Persian Mithras cult, which appeared around 900 before Christ, and then there came up the Roman Mithras cult, which was founded just there, what we saw. Please show this picture again, yeah, because this is something like a tunnel leading to nothing. And in science, this is called the useless and senseless tube in the, do we have it? No. Okay. Since 2000 years, this was built already in pre-Christian times, and archaeologists found out that it's not leading to a chamber or to something important. And I thought it is so massive, and it is going 20 meters deep in the massive rock. So this is not done for anything. So there must be a reason somehow. And it is my discovery that I found out, I thought if there is nothing inside, then might be something is outside. Outside quite far in the sky. Yeah? And so at this time in the 1980s, computers were not so developed. I had to ask special astrologers. They had some kind of computers, and I asked him, is this tunnel, this shaft, leading to something in the sky, to something special astrological? And they found out, yes, indeed, it's leading to a very special constellation of Earth, Sun, Moon, and a far distant of this, the zodiac sign of the lion. It's absolutely showing to the heart of the lion. So this is very rare, and that means in astrology, a priest king is born. This is absolutely fascinating and very rare. That happens only, the zodiac is about 26,000 years, and this will happen only all according to the zodiac sign. One zodiac is lasting 2,160 years about. And this shows the beginning of the ages of fishes, Pisces. And so, and this is leading to an exact date, even an exact hour. It shows a very special constellation in the year 7 before Christ, on the 29th of July. So they expected the birth of an enormous priest king on this date, 7 BC. And the interesting thing, is now that even theologians are now believing that Jesus was not born in the year 0 because he was born at the time of Herod the Great, but he died, unfortunately, already 4 BC. So 7 BC is the date which they accept also for Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'm going to just quickly show them the pictures of 43 and 46, if you can. 43 first, and then 46, because that just puts forth, that's the argument that you've made. Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong. What I understood is what you're trying to say is years before, the so-called birth of Jesus, they had prepared a cave and, that shaft through which the constellation of that specific constellation
A
of
whole
stars
palace and everything around it.
could be seen. Which brings forth to the earlier idea that you said about the Mithra and the birth of Bodhisattva.
Yeah.
So not just you, even other researchers had explored these parallels between the teachings of Jesus Christ and Buddhism. And then you are now talking about this Bodhisattva and Mithra.
Yes,
Just connect both these theories
This
for us,
was when I
please.
continued my study. I noticed when I began to study about Buddhism that a lot of Jesus stories and what Jesus said is already existing in older Buddhist texts. For example, kind of parables of about 60 parables Jesus told. There we can find a minimum of 30 exactly in the same meaning in older Buddhist stories. Older, yeah. For example, I give you an example. As Jesus saying, we have the widow's mite. There's an old lady who's coming to the temple, and she offers 2 very small coins. And the rich people are laughing about her, and they say, what is she giving? This is nothing. But Jesus recognized, no, she is everything, giving what she has, not like you. You are giving just a part of it. And we have exactly the same story in older Buddhist texts. So, and if these are about 30 different, 30 parables equal to it, though this is not just an accident. So this has somehow a meaning. So I started to investigate much more in Buddhism, and I could find out that there are a lot of more parallels. And today I'm convinced, this is what comes out at the end, that Jesus was sent as a coming bodhisattva, a coming Buddha, by Buddha himself, because there's a prophecy of the Buddha. He says, after my death, then it will take 500 years, and then another master will come, and he will be born in the West, and he will be much more prominent than I am. And his teaching is much more important for the whole world. So the followers of Buddha there were already many communities around the Mediterranean Sea. We have proof for this. So they were expecting the birth exactly 500 years after the death of the Buddha, and the year 7 is exactly 500 years later, not 499 or 501, just 500.
Okay. Before I ask my next question, can we see picture 49? And Kersten, I did not understand this picture. Could you please explain what is the relevance of this picture? What does that even mean? This one.
Yeah, this is one of the many existing images, sculptures out of Mithra's temple, a so-called Mitraeum. Because we have to know that the cult of Mithras, was existing in whole of Europe up to the year about 400, up to Emperor Constantine. he has finished and then ended it. But the cult of Mithra was all over Europe. So, and it was brought by the Roman soldiers. The soldiers have taken it from what is now Eastern Anatolia, to the whole of Europe. And the astonishing thing is that almost nobody can remember this. Even most people in Europe have never heard the name Mithra, because the Christians were able to destroy everything, almost everything. But the astonishing thing is there are a few archaeological remains. For example, one is in the middle of London, and they found a Mithraeum called, and this is about 2,000 years old, and it is now, there's now made, out of it, they made a museum, and you can go down there. And it was financed everything by Mr. Bloomberg, who is one of the richest men in the world, and he was mayor of New York. And I have maybe 6 copies of this, so who is really interested could later have a copy of that. The cult of Mithras is as I told you, is the main basic of Christianity. Everything what we know from Christianity is based on this cult. And what we see here on this picture, we have seen before, is the birth of Mithras. So they believed Mithras was coming out of the rock. He was rock-born. So this is because we saw him half of the body in the ground, the other half outside. This is what they have constructed there in Eastern Anatolia. They were able to build, like they built in the Roman, how's it called, the where the games were, and the arena, yeah. So arenas, yeah. They have constructed a thing, though I think they had there on this place, they brought this newborn baby out of the verse and show it to a huge public home. Of course, minimum 3 kings, 3 wise men is there from the east, but I'm sure much more than only 3.
Okay. Holger, that brings me to the question. Your critics say that most of these theories that you put forth in your book is based on speculation, not on empirical data or archaeological evidence. How do you counter that?
I would not say speculations. This is not the right word. These are evidences. I have not 100% proof, but I have hundreds of evidences for this. And to tell you the truth, these are much more scientific evidences than what you can get from the Bible. This is a truth.
Okay. Billions of people see Jesus Christ as, born in Bethlehem, as Son of God and, Savior to people. And then you are giving him you're tracing him back to 5,000 years of Buddha, reincarnation of Buddha. So, do you think that Jesus is much bigger than what we know of him from the Bible? Is that the argument?
It happened very often to me that Christians came to me and said, "Oh, what are you doing? You are destroying our belief. Our Jesus, you make him small and now he's nothing." I said, "No, this is not the thing. It is just the opposite. Now he is 100 times bigger than what we know from the Bible, because he was there for all the world, all over, not only for those very few people in Jerusalem and surrounding, not only for the Jews. He was recognized by all people around the Mediterranean Sea. This was then, at this time, the known world. And he was everywhere. And because he was, this is the most important thing, he was coming in the beginning of the new age of Pisces. Yeah. And so his work, his meaning was to renew to all the established religions at this time there. And this is what he did. So he was very, very successful, and he was, but he did not die on the cross. He survived crucifixion, and you know, he never gave a little hint that he came to survive the people by his death. There's no link to this. He came to show you can be survived if you live like me. I show you how to live. So tolerance and love to all living, that's it. And I cannot survive you without doing nothing. You know, this is like what St. Paul, I call Christianity today, unfortunately, this is Paulinism. It is totally built on the ideas of St. Paul, but it has not very much to do with the original teachings of Jesus. And the thing, St. Paul is the people believe that St. Paul has, he is writing in his Gospels that he has met Jesus in Damascus after crucifixion. Then he should have gone to heaven already. But he says, no, I have seen him. And he was so surprised, he has fallen down from his horse. So, I'm convinced. So theologians say, yeah, he had a vision. This was a vision. Jesus appeared to him and he was so surprised. No, this was not a vision. This was Jesus in his real body, you know, still there. This is what I'm convinced.
Okay, before I open the floor to the audience, my last question to you is, so when you argue that after crucifixion, that he traveled to India and then his tomb was found in Srinagar. So the crux of your argument is that there was a tomb in Srinagar. So my question is, if he has lived as many years in India, roaming around the Kashmir and Himalayas, preaching as you said, as Bodhisattva, how come we don't see any historical references, any proof of this particular figure who was roaming around and preaching in this region? Where did that go missing?
There are a lot of evidences, but of course, again, not in the Bible. But we have so-called apocryphal texts, like the Acts and of St. Thomas, for example. As Indians already, you know everybody, that St. Thomas went to India and established Christianity at the Malabar coast in Madras. I have been there many times, and in some of his texts, he's writing that he was invited for example, a festival or marriage. Yeah, it was a marriage. And he is describing and said, yeah, so it has been almost finished. And after most of the people went out, so Jesus came in and sat down and had his dinner. So things like that. And there are plenty of this. We have a lot of, as I told you, not in the Bible, but in other texts, we see that so-called Jesus came to India and lived there close to Srinagar in a very beautiful mountain monastery, only 12 kilometers out of the city. overlooking the Dal Lake, even a big swimming pool. So, and they say he died with almost 100 years. And I'm sure this tomb shown in Srinagar is not a real tomb, because of course he was cremated. But this was a place where he might have been several times in the old city of Srinagar. And they built a kind of memory thing there. And the tomb, many years before when I started this, I wanted to dig down in this tomb and wanted to see if there are the bones of Jesus. I had no idea about cremation and so. And I thought I have to go to the highest politicians, and I was, later I became a good friend to the chief minister, then at this time Farooq Abdullah. And he said, okay, we will arrange it so that you can dig there. And you see what you find. But then one night before, there was a kind of war with many deaths in Srinagar. He said, I'm sorry, but now this is too dangerous. We can't do that.
Holger, I must say that this radical revolutionary theory that you put forth leaves us with more questions than answers. So I'll definitely open the floor to the audience for questions. Please say your name and ask the question. Thank you.
My name is George Umman. I just follow Middle Eastern culture and history. So this cult of Mithra was already existing by the Hittites in 1500 BC when they had the great empire, the Hittites, first of all. So before Jesus it was there. And secondly, you said about 500 years exactly, Gautama Buddha said another great man will come. But this is a era which was started after Constantine. Buddha did not follow Christian era. So you should.
Yeah, because of the date of the 500 years, there are many, many different translations or tellings about the. So someday Maitreya will come in 3,000 years. Some other day, no, he said he meant 300 years. And there are a lot of speculations, but I have also brought a document with me on the pictures, yeah, which, so one of them is 500 years. And this is, when I found this is exactly 500 years, I found this is something special.
So my name is Amir Zain, and I want to dig history, that's all. I'm very happy to see you here. I'm very grateful to ask this question. The major religions in the world, the Christianity and Islam, they all believe that Jesus or Isa has lived, died and crucified and resurrected and will come to the world, to the earth in the end times. And your book say quite opposite of that. And after I have been to this place in Srinagar, and as you mentioned, the book of Fida Hosnain, the fifth gospel, been through that also, and the book of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And after having this much researches, I found that how could a truth with this much evidence could be hidden from the general public? Have you ever felt like a kind of power trying to hide this from the general public? And one more question, like in your book, you have mentioned about the Nicholas Notovich, who been to the Hemis monastery. So the evidences he went there has been destroyed by the Max Muller himself from the Christian authorities. So you have gone this much far. So have you ever felt such kind of oppressions from any communities in the world?
First of all, I did not understand everything, but I have to tell you, it is written in the Quran, as you know, that Jesus was at the cross, but he seemed to be dead. It's not written that he was dead. It's just showing he seemed to be dead. This is a correct translation. And what was the other question?
Asking, do you think there was a bigger power in play trying to hide this secret?
Trying to hide what?
Do you want to ask that first part of the question where you thought there was a bigger power in play, just trying to hide this secret from the world? So he was asking what exactly the secret that you were referring to.
Like this has been hidden from the general public. So have you ever felt like any kind of powers trying to hide this from the public? Like this is not been anywhere. Like the book you have written, this is very rare. And the general public doesn't know about this truth. Is there any kind of conspiracy or any kind of propagandas behind this?
Yeah, you see, I found out that not only Christianity, but more religions, there's, in the people who are leading this, there's a lot of interest in power and in money. This is a problem everywhere. So, of course, they want to tell all the others, no, your religion is not the right one, only ours is the right one. And this happens, unfortunately, everywhere.
Hello, my name is Ajmal, and I'm a member of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, and I'm also a sociology student. I want to ask this question about, since the religious sociology is concerned that many religions are based on some ideas or ideologies. Like Christianity is based on the resurrection of Jesus and the salvation of the mankind. And Islam, the major Muslim belief is that it seems that Jesus has died, but he's actually ascended to the heaven, and in the later days he would come back. And the Jews believes that Jesus had a cursed death. So these three controversies, when we see that, and your fact, when we put it, and there is a challenge of people coming from fiction to fact. So the entire ideology or the social systems or religious systems are based on these facts, and they are having a struggle to find these facts as soothing to their religion. So my question is, does the contemporary society ready to accept your truth or the facts from fiction?
I believe that if, you know, all the religions have a lot of truths, but also some stories, some mythological stories in it. This is everywhere. And, but now we are going in the third millennium, we are going to listen much more to science. For example, in Europe, now especially in Germany, hundreds of thousands of people are leaving the church every year. You know, hundreds of thousands. So because they say, no, I don't want to listen, sorry. This is, so I was happy because my book appeared already in 1980. Then the people were not so critical and they were more interested in spirituality and in India, because short before the Beatles have been in India and were praising it as a land of wisdom, and all this happened. So I was lucky. Now, I think if I would publish the same story today, nobody would read it.
There was a question coming from there.
Very good evening. My name is Naeem Sharif. My question is, the book Jesus in India by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, did that book influence you in any way? The book Jesus in India written by Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, did it influence you in any way?
Yeah, this is, unfortunately, I learned about this book only much later. Only after this was, I knew I was not the very first who published about this. Even in 1921, there was a German who said Jesus was an Indian, but at this time, no computers and everything, though I did not hear about. If I had to go to special sources in Syria, in Persia, at this time, I had to travel to Tehran University to look in these books. Today, I can have it in 2 seconds on the computer. So I didn't know about that.
Sir, I am Shajan Jacob. I'm a Christian and I believe in the Bible. So if you speak about Jesus and about his teaching, you look up into the Bible, which is the word of God for Christians. So the Bible says after Jesus was, he was told and went to the temple in Jerusalem, he went back to his home. And it says in Luke chapter 2, then he went down to the Nazareth with them and was obedient to them. But his mother treasured all these things in his heart. And Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. So Jesus clearly lived with them, parents in Nazareth, up to the age of 33 until John the Baptist came to preach repentance. And when he was put in prison, Jesus started his preaching. You can tell anything, you have your freedom, you can make money out of all this crap, but the truth will always stand true, and the word of God is always. Jesus said, not a word, not a point, not a comma of my word will change, and anyone who changes that will have the curses from heaven. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, you are right. I mean, this is what you believe, and this is what I found out, and you are right. And if somebody is interested in this brochure from the Mithraeum in London, I have a few copies. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I thank the DC family to invite me, and I was very happy to be here. Thank you for listening, and goodbye. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all your questions, and I hope books like this will encourage us to have more intellectual engagement on a topic like religion, and which will bring us together rather than divide our communities. Thank you so much.